Welcome to the Existential Empath Podcast. My name is Tanya, and I am an intuitive empath. My intention is to share valuable tips, tools, and techniques that I have learned so you can tap into your own inner healer naturally and intuitively. Welcome back, everyone. Today I have guest Marc Max Pollock. Marc is an entrepreneur, spiritual teacher, energy practitioner, and Reiki Master. His new book, hot off the press, Curious Avatar, Exploring Reality, Spiritual Energy, Personal Transformation, and the Meaning of Life, presents a provocative look at life, love, the nature of the soul, and the future of humanity. Marc's calling is to share his transformational journey with others to help them heal and live their best, abundant lives. Welcome, Marc. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Tanya, the pleasure is all mine. So glad to be here. I'm glad you invited me. This is amazing.
So we're going to have a really fun time today with this dialogue. We're going to talk about what is reality and how do we harness universal energy to enrich our lives. And so, Marc, your story is a very powerful example of overcoming adversity. You grew up experiencing poverty, abuse, and even homelessness. And throughout your journey, you realized you could harness the power of the universe to change a reality from a life of hopelessness to a life of abundance, right? So let's begin with your story on when and how did you actually start to remember you could work with universal energy? And I say remember because I feel personally that all of us have this within inside of us. And so
no doubt.
Yeah. So how did you start remembering this and when did you start remembering this?
You know what? Fantastic way to start this, Tanya. It really came out of complete and total desperation on my end. I came out of a childhood, father left when I was 6, single mom, abusive stepfather, it was just a shit show, Tanya. And, we were really, we lived a long time on food stamps and just transient, and my education suffered. I just emerged out of childhood really into young adulthood as a broken individual. I was, anybody, when you come from that background, it's just, your soul just gets crushed. And, as a young adult, it starts to play out and manifest in all kinds of negative ways. Self-destructive behavior, alcohol, drug abuse and use, just angry, violent, I was just an absolute mess. Confusion, just really didn't know what direction to go. And it kind of got to the point, honestly, where, just to take a little tangent, all through that chaotic time, I was raised very much in a kind of a conservative, evangelical, Christian environment, right? And that served as the basis for my entire belief system. And so by the time I got into my 20s, I was a mess. And I got to the point, honestly, where I didn't believe anything from any of my belief system. Really didn't have an example of a well-functioning adult in my life. And I just got to the point where I've either got to find this out for myself and how life works, or it's just not worth it. I was just in a really nihilistic space. And I think a lot of people get into that mode. A lot of people
what age did this happen, Marc, when you had that aha moment? I've got to get out of it.
You know what? This is like mid-20s. So it was just, I just had come to the end of my rope. And a lot of kids get suicidal. I was no different. A lot of kids just don't know where to turn. I was no different. a lot of young adults just, they were just, you're just so socialized and so conditioned by your environment growing up that it just seems absolutely hopeless. So, out of sheer desperation, I just basically said, "This is what I'm going to do. I am just going to like nuke my entire belief system. I'm going to start from scratch. Like there is no God, there's nothing, like just a complete pit of nihilism. And either I can work my way out of this by discovering things for myself that resonate with me, or honestly, I probably wouldn't be here right now, to be
Wow.
honest with you." So,
You had
but
this
I don't
epiphany
think
at a young age. It took me till 40 to figure all this out.
well, you know what? I am grateful for that. I mean, I guess I just, I don't know. I was just, I mean, I was a mess, and but I think a lot of people are in this mode.
Yeah.
And
Well, you were
a lot
dealt
of
a hard
people,
hand is what it sounds like. I mean, ever since the time you were born.
it was, there was a lot of trauma,
Mhm.
but there's always, there's a lot of trauma in the world. There's people that experience much more trauma than I ever experienced. And there's, we're all on our individual specific journey, right? So what I did is just, I kind of just took a step back and I shot God the middle finger and just said, I've got to figure this out for myself. And as soon as I made that decision, it was not an instant transformation. It was, but
All the light.
yeah, but what started happening was I basically just said, I'm open. I'm open. I'm curious and I'm open. So if there is a God, if there is an intelligent governing force for this universe, just, listen, I'm here. Like you're gonna have to show me what's going on. So as soon as I did that, like it's just all of a sudden things like books would just show up in my, in front of me, or I go to a bookstore and be like, well, this is kind of like the next step. Okay, you learn this little bit and you learn that. And so what I did was started fusing together. I'm a big science buff. I've always been into science and physics, and so I started really delving into, okay, maybe science is the answer, right? That was my first foray into like coming up with my own uh, ideals of the universe and
Your
how
own
all this
blueprint for
thing
life.
works, right? So I started, delving into all this, scientific literature, specifically in the realm of quantum physics. And this was a while back, right?
Wow.
So
Mhm.
now quantum physics is, kind of, everybody kind
Kind
of
of a thing.
understands what
Yeah.
quantum physics is. Back then, they didn't even teach quantum physics in high school. I mean, there was, even though these
Yeah, when I
discoveries
went to high
were
school,
at
they
the
didn't teach
turn of the
quantum physics.
1900s. Yeah, no, they just acted like we just lived in this Newtonian universe of, cause and effect, and there's not all this weird stuff happening everywhere, right? So I started getting kind of blown away by all of this. And then I started reading just like a lot of mystical literature and books, and just slowly, step by painful step, I started just kind of, okay, asking questions. Why is everybody in my environment struggling so desperately, financially, emotionally, relationship wise? I mean, everybody that I was in contact with was a mess. It was one of these cycles, like a cycle of poverty, or a cycle of abuse, or a cycle. And where I came from, it was just a really, was surrounded by like a really negative cycle. And I could see people on the outside that were thriving. They were financially successful. They seemed to be happy in different areas of their life. They had solid relationships. And I'm like,
And you're like, what are they
what's the
doing?
difference
Mhm.
between them and me?
Mhm.
All right. So I started asking these questions. And what I figured out was that just it mattered what I was channeling into my life. Like it was, I started developing this concept of energy, and now it's a lot more accepted. I think because we have, even though it sometimes seems like we haven't evolved at all, we really have. I mean, because the spiritual community, religious communities, scientific communities, they're all coming to grips that really there's this outside intelligence power that is feeding this physical universe.
Mhm.
So it just came as little bits and pieces. And listen, I was still struggling. I was still a mess. I was still just
Looking for answers. Yeah.
yeah, just searching for answers. I still had all this programming from my childhood that I was slowly working through from a psychological standpoint. But slowly but surely, kind of this framework of the universe started formulating for me. And when I nuked everything in my belief system, basically the only thing I said I'm going to do, I'm going to be completely open, but everything that comes in, I'm going to accept it and then try it in my life. And if it works in my life, I'll keep it. If it doesn't, I immediately discard it. I'm not going to take anybody's word for anything,
That's a very
right?
open way to
So
look at
this is
things.
just going to be, and I don't care. I don't care what anybody else believes. I don't care what anybody else is saying that's going on. I don't care about any other explanation unless I try it in my life and it works for me. It's really it has nothing to do with me. So that's the approach I took. And it took decades and decades to really kind of slowly pull myself out of this nihilistic pattern that I was in. And amazingly, miraculously, I've been able to carve. I had my wife and I created this marketing agency 25 years ago. We built it up. It was hugely successful. We ended up selling it in 2019. Just I accumulated, I was able to turn poverty to abundance. I was able to turn really bad mental health issues, depression, anxiety, dissociative, disorders into a healthy, clear mind, chronic physical problems that manifested from all the stress and pressure and everything that happened in my childhood just started dissipating. And so the book, Curious Avatar, kind of, it's not a memoir, but it has little memoiral, is that a word? Anyway, sections about my life that kind of give context to each chapter, which is basically an insight that I came up with over my learning period. And so it's kind of, it kind of takes you through kind of the big picture all the way down to okay, how is this affecting my daily existence, my relationships, my relationship with my body, my health, my mental health, my physical health. Big cornerstone in my belief system is the karmic field, right? So how am I, all this energy that I'm channeling in, what am I doing with it? How do I burn negative karma? How do I, all this stuff? So it turned into kind of an explanation of everything. And when I started writing this book, it was funny because I started writing like these essays for my children. I've got 4 beautiful kids, and it's hard to describe to them how I think about life and reality and religion and spirituality. So I kind of wanted to leave them kind of, okay, here's why dad's so crazy, right? So this is why he thinks these
Dad's in
weird
another
things.
reality.
Right. So I started that, and then it just kind of took on a life of its own. So it was a long time in the making, but once I sat down and, it took me about a year to write the manuscript and the last 6 months to edit it. But I'm happy with it. I'm kind of, we sold our business. So now I'm free to kind of take on my next stage and chapter of life. Right. So, really I was called to write the book. I'm called to kind of, venture out and talk to folks and try to make a difference in the world and leave a legacy. And that's what motivates it.
Absolutely. And I want to talk about your book later on in the show, but I want to talk about, you had brought up quantum physics, and I'm an energy practitioner as well, and I work in the quantum field. And I want to talk about this and how we can shift our reality when we're working with energy and matter. And so this is a area that you actually worked on in your life, and you actually shared it in your book as well. And so, Marc, we all have that capability to focus, the internal to shift our external. It sounds like you've been able to master that, and I've been able to work on that as well in my life. And I want to talk about that in the show because it's really imperative that people understand how to shift our external is by going within. And what it sounds like, you said you nuked all of your belief systems, and I did that too. I kind of went cold turkey and said, nope, we're going to chop these off at the root. And we're
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
pull them out from the root, and I'm going to start from scratch. And so,
Uh,
Marc, what is that link between energy and matter, and what does the role of humanity play in perfecting this link in order to shift our reality, not only our own personal realities, but the collective reality as well?
Right. Well, here's kind of how I visualize reality, right? So I think there's an intelligent, energetic force uh, that created matter, right? Started, billions of years ago with the Big Bang, and slowly it's been evolving, from particles to planets to stars to life here on Earth. And we're kind of the latest iteration of the process of energy trying to link to matter. So it very much departs from the scenario of most religions, which is God, energy, kind of like,
Outside of
woof,
us.
here we created matter, we created man, and that's it. My ideas about it are that we are that there is a constant evolutionary process, and then we humans are basically the most advanced link towards that process. So as soon as we developed our sentient minds, we basically gave pure energy the ability then to reflect on itself, to to then enjoy matter. So visualize your pure energy, right? Everything's wonderful. You're in the realm of energy, which is great. But in the realm of energy, you wouldn't have all these tactile sensations that we enjoy in this material universe, right? The
Yeah, like
sun,
breathing.
the smells, the touch of another human being, just, I mean, all these things that we take for granted, the sights, the sounds, just the feelings this wonderful world has to offer. So my concept is that energy is slowly evolving a pure link so that it can enjoy the path to matter in a pure sense. Obviously, we're a long ways away from that, right?
Yeah.
So the biggest obstacle to this process is that our sentient brains are the evolutionary the process of a long evolutionary process, that basically we have a lot of garbage in there that comes from our past and how our brain evolved. So we have to, as human beings, be able to separate our physical gray matter brains from our spiritual mind. So I believe that each of us has a soul, has a spirit that operates as kind of the link between God, energy, and matter. Okay. So it's a little bit complicated, and I go kind of into a lot of detail in my book, but basically, our every lifetime we are charged with taking our evolutionary step one step further, right? So we're, we started this lifetime, we came in with a goal, an objective. All that is stored in our spirit, our soul, which is an energy, right? It exists in the energetic field. And then that gets infused into this material world through our birth, and then with an agenda, with cooperation for all the other souls in our life, we're all paddling in the same direction, trying to evolve that pure link back to energy. So we're trying to learn how to train our brains and our bodies in this material form to be an unobstructed link back to spirit. That's basically the crux of it. So,
Wow. So shifting energy to matter, matter back to energy, or matter
right,
back to
right.
spirit.
Encoding and decoding,
Wow.
that's, and I think, and science backs this up. Like, we now know
Look at water.
science proves, look at water, look at being able to you know, control quantum field with our brains and our attitudes, and just showing up and observing. We communicate energetically with our environment at all times. There's many examples of that. Water is one of them. Heck, you can go into a crowded room and you can stare at somebody with their back turned, and they will all of a sudden they'll just turn around because they feel it. We are exposed to energy all the time, and not only energy from other humans, energy from everything in our environment. Okay, everything is energetic, everything is frequency. It's and all of that serves a purpose, because we are trying to take that energy, and we're trying to train our brains to use that to funnel more energy in to create a better material environment. And then we're also using our brains and our physical bodies as a tactile link, so that our spirit energy can enjoy this world to the maximum extent. So that's kind of the overall arching philosophy that I operate on.
I love that, because that's scientific and spiritual. I like that. There's like that nice collaboration between the two. And so, Marc, you had talked about how there was one point in your life when you literally every person around you showed poverty, or showed struggle, or showed lack, or showed something along those lines. And when you went within, you said you nuked all those beliefs, you started to shift from the inside out. Did you begin to recognize that your reality on the outside started to shift? Did you notice that
you know what
poverty started to dissolve?
Almost immediately. And it's funny because you look at it just depends on what kind of energy you're funneling into your environment, into your reality. My concept is that there's creative energy, which is basically it's agnostic. It does, creative energy. You can make hell or heaven. You can build, the life of your dreams, or you can build a prison for yourself. Okay. But we are a complete channel for creative energy. What our intention is, and our mind, where our mind is, determines what that energy becomes.
Yeah.
And, that feeds into the whole concept of karma, right? So, we funnel in all this karma from past lives. Okay. You start with a karmic store, good and bad, right? So you're going to have to deal with that. So then you go through your life, and you're either, you're burning bad karma, or you're accumulating more karma, and all that energy. You have to do something with that energy, right? So when you
Like
die,
a pressure
that
cooker.
energy
Mhm.
goes back to spirit, and spirit can't burn material karma. It just can't. It's like a repository. It's like a bank.
Uh-huh.
So your spiritual self, your soul, while it's, you're happy in that energetic field and you're playing with all the energetic bodies around you, you can only burn karma in the material world. So you go in, it all comes into your next life and your next life and your next life. So I always kid. I said I must have had some bad karma in my
You had a
previous
lot of
life.
baggage
You
coming
know,
into this life.
yeah, yeah. It's like I don't think I was that wise or that
I
great, or
checked my carry-on. I was like, "No, I'm coming in very
yeah,
baggage."
yeah. It's like, okay, I got some karma to burn in this life, baby. Yeah, so I'm after it. So really, my objective is to learn as many lessons as I can in this life, and of course every negative thing in your life happens for a reason.
Mhm.
It gives you there's an instruction there. Whether you want to see it or not, whether you want to learn that lesson or not is completely up to you. So another one of my foundational concepts is that I am completely responsible for absolutely everything in my life. The good, the bad, it doesn't matter. And the worse it is, the bigger the lesson that is embedded in that.
That's a
Right.
hard pill for
So
some people to swallow, Mark, is that they're responsible for
it's a little
all of their
controversial
reality.
because it's like,
Mhm.
what did I do when I was a kid to deserve that?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, well, the whole concept of conservation of energy is that energy, so you came into this life and you agreed, not your spirit set yourself up to learn these lessons. Of course, you have free will. You can learn them or not,
Yep.
right? But
Roll with the
then they
punches.
also cooperate with the other souls in your life for good and bad, to help you learn those lessons, and also your responsibility to help them learn their lessons, right? So, but at the end of the day, we're all responsible for our own karmic legacy. We're all responsible for the energy that we brought in, that we accumulate, and for the reality that we create. And as soon as I got that concept, it empowered me.
Yeah.
It empowered me to, because now I'm in control.
Yeah.
I'm not, it's not luck. It's not some third party that is bestowing blessings on me. It's like I am it,
Mhm.
right? So for good or bad, right? And I know in my life that the bad things that I've done, the mistakes that I have made, that I have to deal with those or they will follow me. And I kind of go into a little bit on how, how I, these are my ideas. They may not work for anybody else. I don't know. But how I, set up and burn karma and then kind of release it and basically alchemize negative energy, low frequency energy into high frequency energy. And being a health worker, it's, the amazing thing about it is being an energy worker that you feel the change.
You
You
do.
feel the energy. You
Mhm.
feel negative energy. You feel high frequency energy. You can manipulate it. You can adjust it. You can control it. It's a skill that can be learned by anybody.
Yeah, and we all have
And
that built within us,
we
right?
do.
It's all
We do.
within our avatar, so to speak. And Mark, there's a saying I say often, not my reality. And I say that because people will say, blah, 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 inflation did this to me, blah, 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 the government's doing this to me,
Right.
blah, 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 so and so's taking my money. I'm like, not my reality. But it's important for us to understand what the reality is that we don't want, right? So we can actually focus our energy on the reality that we do want. And that's what
Absolutely.
your story was sharing, is that, I didn't want to live in poverty. I didn't want to live struggling. I didn't want to live like a wanderer, with my family dynamic. I want to
Right. I didn't want to live as a
control.
damaged individual, right?
Mhm.
I mean, it wasn't worth it to me, honestly. And because, and so listen, it was also the scariest possible thing I think anybody can go through. And uh not everybody has to go through that, and I get it. A lot of people can use their religion, they can use their faith system, their belief system, and they're fine with it. I just got to the point where it wasn't fine for me, so I had to kind of go and say, okay, the scariest thing for me in the world was just staring in the mirror and going, I don't, why am I here? This is it. Does anything have any meaning whatsoever? I don't know. And then having no answers for anything, and then going, okay, well, if this does not work out, I'm checking out. But if it does, let's go, So that's kind of the mentality that I came up with. So
Yeah, and I think a lot of people get to that mentality. There was a time when I was suffering with such severe pain. I said to my dad, I can see why people check out, because
yeah,
I just wanted out of the pain, but it also drove me within. It drove me to learn how to heal myself with my mind, how to shift my belief systems around my health and all these other dynamics. And so that was sort of my stepping stone, was my health, to get me to the point of learning more about how to change my inner world so it will reflect out into my outer world. And so, Marc, I want to dive into your book, Curious Avatar. And, we hear this word avatar. Many of us have seen the movie, and I use the term
right.
avatar as well. So let's, you talk about a lot of things in your book. What are the origins of existence, and what are the controlling forces of our reality? But I want to first talk about, what is an avatar? What is your concept of an
Right.
avatar, and how does that exist within each of us?
You know what? It's a great question. And we've touched on it a little bit. In my way of thinking about reality and universe and how energy transfers into this material realm, basically, we are avatars for our spirit and soul, which is connected directly to source energy. So, as avatars, as these physical material beings that are here kind of trying to evolve and learn how to connect in a better way back to spirit in each lifetime, but we're trying to kind of move the ball forward one step at a time. We are directly connected to our spirits and our soul, whose sole purpose is to push us to evolve.
Mhm.
So as avatars, we come into every lifetime with a mission to, let's take the ball one step forward, right? Let's learn some lessons, let's burn some karma, let's try to help yourself, try to help your social group, let's try to help the world move a little bit further and a little bit further, because as basically we are God, we are pure energy, we are connected to pure energy. So we want to connect, we want to be able to enjoy all this without the depression, without the stress, without the anxiety, without the
Not my
backbiting,
reality.
without the political turmoil, without fearing that somebody's going to shoot a nuclear missile any minute. I mean, it's just crazy, right? But we are, but that's just the process that has to
That's part of the
happen,
game. Yeah.
and that is part of the process. So we are all little avatars here. We're trying to evolve, and think about it. If you think about like a say a blockchain program, where okay, you've got a problem to solve. You're going to distribute it over a whole network of computers to solve this problem, right? Essentially, that's what spirit is doing. That's what source energy is doing. They've got all these billions of avatars out there pursuing their own path to evolution, so that because the more paths that are being tried, the faster the evolution goes. So, we're kind of like that computer, that problem that the computer is trying to solve with a massive network of computers, right?
Uh-huh.
So we are basically that. And source energy is going, okay, each spirit is going, okay, we're going to take all these talents and karma and challenges that we've experienced over umpteen lifetimes. We're going to, it's uploaded into our spirit. We're going to come down to this new life. All that's going to be there, right? And we're going to take our little avatar and we're going to try to move the ball forward. And everybody's doing that. So eventually, it will reach a tipping point. Eventually, I believe, and I don't, who knows when, but hopefully sooner rather than later, we will get to a point where evolution will, and I think we already are seeing it, where evolution is starting to accelerate, right?
Hmm.
It's like Chat GPT, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's learning, and then it's all of a sudden it's just exponentially learning more and more and more and more. And I think that our spiritual environment is exactly the same thing. So we are evolving. And I think that the more people like you that are out there doing what you're doing, sharing these very valuable messages, I mean, it's has a compounding effect. So energy attracts energy, right? Like frequency attracts like frequency. Uh, if we can get enough people moving in this direction, it'll drag the rest of humanity along with it. So
Yeah.
I'm an optimist. I'm an optimist that eventually we're going to get to that objective that we've been heading towards. Who knows when? But anyway, in the meantime, let's enjoy the ride. Right? Let's try to let's try to let's try to create the best possible life that we can, the life of our dreams. Let's try to learn how to channel energy in a more efficient way, a better way. Let's try to burn through all the karma that we got to burn through and learn the lessons we've got to learn, as painful as they might be. And we'll head to the next life. But that's in the way I look at things, that's what everybody's doing. Everybody on the planet is going through this same thing.
Yeah, I agree. And I sometimes look at it like a video game. You got your higher self, your soul self up there with the remote, and they're like, okay, go over here to get this pot of gold. All right, yeah, okay. No,
You
you're
know
going
what?
the wrong way.
That's a
Turn over
great
here.
analogy.
I
Yes.
think of Legends of Zelda. I don't know how old you are, but I look back to Nintendo times and Link and Legends of Zelda,
Oh,
and
I'm
I'm
old
like,
enough.
we're just
Yeah.
in a big old video game.
Yeah. Yeah. We just threw rocks at a screen. That's all we did back in my day. That's how old I am. Yeah.
It's a screen.
But no, that's a perfect analogy because that's exactly what we're doing. I mean, our spirits are directing us and putting us into situations to help us learn.
Yeah. So,
And
Mark, how do we tune in to this innate avatar so that way we can harness this universal energy so we can shift our reality to a more desirable reality? There might be some listeners and watchers out there who are like, I feel like Mark felt in the beginning of the show. I was at
right.
this point. How, what do I need to do to shift, within myself so I can actually shift my external reality?
First and foremost, and it's in the title of my book, Curious Avatar, you have to be curious. You have to ask the questions, right? We have to be open. In order for our brains, this gray matter, and I'm talking about our physical brains, to learn anything, it has to be open. So if you are stuck with ideologies that are not serving you, if you are stuck with habits, if you are stuck with wounds, you have to slowly train your brain to open up to a different possibility. That's step one. Okay. So, and as soon as we do that, all of a sudden we can start to channel positive, higher frequency energy and start affecting real change in our life. but it's a process. It's not, unfortunately, we live in a time where it's instant gratification, right? So, but it's taking just that kind of one step at a time and learning, okay, uh, I didn't originate this, but I visualize energy as as a spiral, right? So we can, when back way back when I was just struggling, I was struggling with depression, I was struggling with anger, and it was just like anything would set me off, right? And then you're driving, somebody cuts you off, and you get in this confrontation, and all of a sudden that little seed of negative low energy, low frequency energy would start to spiral down, and then everything starts bothering you, and then you get depressed, and then you get anxious, and it just spiral. What I would do was, I would take just an action that lifted the energy a little bit, like a stranger, just in my mind, wish them blessings, wish them happiness, or give them a smile. Okay. It sounds insignificant. It sounds like nothing. But all of a sudden, that little kernel of higher frequency energy starts to reverse that spiral that I was in. And then I would do something else, and all of a sudden that energy spiral that was going down is now going up, right? And so and I think each of us has the ability to do that.
Mhm.
We just have to make the overt choice to override our monkey brains and the reactions of our monkey brain, and channel a little bit of high frequency energy, and then see what happens. And what
Yeah.
happens every time is you feel a little better. You feel like, oh, okay. And as soon as that positive energy, energy is magnetic. Energy of one frequency tracks the same frequency energy. So as soon as you get a little bit of higher frequency energy in your life, it attracts a little more and a little more and a little more. And that will continue to spiral up until you let your monkey brain
Take you
take
back
over
down again.
again. And then you get pissed off, or something happens, and then then you can just feel the shift. And all of a sudden you're spiraling down again. So the second thing you have to do is you have to bring awareness
Mhm.
to yourself, right? We have two brains. We have our physical brain, which we are training to be a connection to core energy.
Under
We also have our
construction.
spiritual brain, right? Our spiritual brain feels good. It feels happy. It feels positive. It gives us energy. And we have to, through the process of awareness, Eastern religion is very good at focusing on this, bringing awareness to the monkey brain. What's my brain doing? And understanding with your spiritual brain that this is not me. It's not me. My body's not me. This brain is not me. This avatar is not me. I live in the realm of energy.
Mhm.
So as soon as that awareness comes in, you can go, okay, thank you, monkey brain. This is not who I am. I'm going to make another choice.
I'm
And our
limitless.
actions
Mhm.
start leading to higher frequency energy. And then that frequency energy starts pouring in. And slowly your life starts changing. Eventually, the brain is, it learns. I mean, that's what it does. So once it starts to learn that I'm not in control anymore, this other spiritual brain's in control. And every time I listen to the spiritual brain, good things happen. Every time I kind of, you know, melt down in my monkey brain, bad things happen.
Mhm.
It learns. So, and it builds instead of having a negative habit, like maybe you exist in this world. I mean, we are constantly living in a world of habits, right? We have a habit. We habitually think about things in a certain way. We react in a certain way. Most of the time, we don't even understand why we do what we do. We just don't. And it's, it happens all the time.
Mhm.
It's like, why did I lose my shit? I don't. I wasn't even thinking, and that's just because you were
There's a
connected
program.
to your brain, and it's subject to all the programming from your past. It's all subject to all the programming from your past lives, from your evolution from an amoeba all the way to the human being, right? We're driven by reproduction, by safety, by shelter, by food, all those things. So once we bypass that through awareness, and I don't know if you meditate. I meditate not enough, but I do. But as soon as you start developing that discipline of just watching your brain as separate from yourself, connecting to soul, connecting to spirit, then you're able to overcome some of that.
Yeah, being the
And that's
observer.
the process.
And I like how you use the analogy of the spiral. You're spiraling, because I even visualize our emotions. Some of them are more higher frequency than others, or more expanded frequencies versus
Right.
restricted frequencies, right? And so I'm currently reading a book called Reality Transurfing, and he talks about the concept of a pendulum. If you know what a pendulum is, it swings back and
Mm,
forth. And when you get the pendulum moving in one direction, say it's moving towards negative thoughts, what you'll do is you'll actually start to create momentum around more of those negative thoughts. And then you'll start to attract in your external reality more people who are negative around you. And so
right.
bringing, like you said, being consciously aware that, okay, I'm swinging the pendulum in a direction, or I'm spiraling in a direction I don't want to, bringing it back to that neutral point, and then
Right.
creating momentum in the positive, direction. And so
That's you have great analogies.
I love
So yeah,
analogies.
yeah. Well, that is wonderful. And they also think, and I bet you can attest to this, is when you're in a negative spiral, bringing that negative spiral to a halt requires a lot of energy. It's kind of like moving a freight train, right?
Yes.
The inertial point requires the most energy. So you have to pour tons of positive energy to stop that negative spiral. That's why it's so hard. That's why people
Stop.
it's so
Mhm.
hard to stop
A car going 80 miles per hour and turning it
yeah, I mean,
around.
like if you
Mhm.
have if you're engaged in self-destructive behavior or thoughts or patterns, it's so hard to overcome that. It's because it takes so much energy to bring that to a stop and then start it again in a positive way. So if you just maintain discipline and understand the process, understand it, teach your brain, okay, this is the process. It's going to be hard to it's going to be hard to overcome this habit. It's going to be hard to overcome this pattern of behavior. But the the hard part really is up front, right? We have to pour tons of energy into this. And then once it starts going up to a higher frequency, becomes easier and easier and easier, because then the compounding effect works to your benefit, right?
Absolutely. You start
Yeah.
magnetizing more of what you desire in your life versus what you
Yep.
were not desiring.
Yep. And the other thing that I find extremely helpful in my philosophy, in my ideology way to looking at life, is that we are basically, you know, our real self is in spirit, it's in soul, but we're hanging out in the realm of energy with all the other people in spirits and souls. We all have our groups that, of souls and spirits, and that we grew up with, for good, for bad. The soul, the spirit is not good or bad. It's just here in this
It just
material
is.
realm.
Mhm.
And it's, I tell a little story in the book, but I was in this altered state at some point, and I visualized really me sitting in the realm of spirit as a soul, surrounded by all the other souls, that are in my immediate life, right? And even the most heinous person was this beautiful, fun soul of light that basically everybody was playing. It was a world of play and of creation, and everybody is has avatars here in this material realm that are just trying to serve a specific purpose.
Mhm.
And maybe somebody's specific purpose was to be a pain in my ass.
No, you're right.
You
Yeah.
know?
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. And but that's agreed on the soul level. It's
Uh-huh.
agreed in the realm of spirit. And so as soon as you recognize that that person is a beautiful soul and spirit that is trying to be a benefit to me, and I'm trying to be a benefit to them,
Of course.
right? It's a it you can't blame that person anymore on the material realm.
Mhm.
I can't. You know, it's you look at them differently. You look at them like you're a damaged material avatar, but in the realm of spirit where we truly exist,
We're divine.
we're
Mhm.
divine. You're beautiful.
Mhm.
And so that helps a lot. So,
Yeah.
you know,
I had that
because
aha moment, Mark. A children's book. Someone had handed me a children's book, and it talked about being a light body and how there was a few souls creating their template. And one of them said, I would like to experience grief when I go to Earth. And the other soul said, I will assist you with experiencing grief, and I will be the one that crosses over,
oh
first. And
man, that's
so
powerful.
it was very powerful. And I was having this aha
That is
moment of,
powerful.
oh,
Wow.
this is a kid's
That was a
book. And
children's book. That's a pretty deep children's book.
I read
Wow.
that whole book from front to back, and
Mm,
I got so much meaning out of
that
that
gave me
book.
chills.
Yeah, it gave
Yeah.
me complete chills because, like you said, that person who's being a pain in your ass, or that relationship you're in that just isn't working, there's a reason. There's a reason you both signed up to experience that for your own personal
Right.
growth. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, that, and if you truly see others like that, it's impossible to be mad. It's impossible to hate them. It's impossible to do anything but love them and thank them. You know, I mean, it's weird. So, it that is, is if we could all do that, if we could all see each other as divine, light beings here to help each other, we wouldn't live in the world we live.
Mhm.
We would live in the world we're trying to get to. So that is huge
It's
part of,
profound,
yeah, yeah.
very
It
profound. So,
it is.
Mark, this has been an awesome conversation. The hour's already flown by. And so tell us a little bit more about how people can contact you. Where can they purchase your book, Curious Avatar?
Yeah, you can go to my website, marcmaxpollock.com. The Curious Avatars is on Amazon. It's on all the book channels, Barnes and Noble, wherever you buy books. And if you go to my website, I also have a Substack that I publish writings once a week. And so I'm trying to build up an audience on the Substack, and that's going to be kind of my platform ongoing for writing. Got another book coming out in September, hopefully. But yeah, so all my like podcast dates and teaching dates and writings and the book, you can get all that on marcmaxpollock.com.
Great. Well, thank you, Mark. This has been a very
Connie,
dynamic conversation. I really appreciate you coming on.
it's been amazing.
I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing your story. Not everybody can feel comfortable enough to come on a podcast, share what they've been through, and then write a book about it. It's obvious to me that your abilities are writing. So keep doing that. Keep doing
Thank
that.
you so
And,
much.
I think that's also a validation for me. I keep hearing, start your book, get your book, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You
when
need
that
to.
energy
You
comes
need to.
through, yeah, you
Yes,
feel that.
you
So
need to. And Tanya, if I can, I'd love to be back on your podcast anytime. Just call me or reach out to me. And if you once you start your book, I've got some pointers. I've got some folks that are really good. So just let me know about that. Any way I can help you, I'm available.
Great. I appreciate that so much. And I appreciate you, Marc. Thank you so much for coming on the show
Tony,
today.
thank you, darling. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
You deserve to navigate your life in alignment with health, happiness, and abundance. To learn more about the services that I provide, including Beyond Quantum Healing Hypnosis, EFT tapping, and the Emotion Code, visit my website at www.theexistentialempath.com.